Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to F1 Fantasy Weekly and Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2020.
Welcome to 2020. What a year 2020 is going to be. And you know, we are going to be cheesy here, Stephen. We are going to be cliche. It's new year, new fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, this is already a series in itself, the F1 Fantasy Weekly, but we're going to go sub-series. A series within a series, series-ception.
Oh, yeah. I'm confused already.
Well,
I was there when we came up with the idea.
And so we like to confuse people. So what we're going to do in this series, so F1 Fantasy Weekly, we've got some time to kind of fill before we get to kind of really looking ahead and doing our preview stuff for the 2020 season and the 2020 F1 Fantasy season and who we might pick and everything going along those lines. So what we are going to do for the month of January is we're going to take a look back at what F1 Fantasy was in 2019 and some bits that we would like to see improved for the fantasy game in 2020. Unlikely it will happen.
Yeah.
But our thoughts on how we could improve fantasy.
It's good to talk about it. It's fun to talk about it.
And this series is going to be interactive. So obviously this episode, it will just be our thoughts. But if you comment down in below on this episode, guys, then we will be taking your thoughts and queries over the next 3 episodes over the course of January. And we will be having your ideas forward and discussing them on how to improve fantasy. So we shall be looking forward to that one. And don't forget, guys, if you are new around here for 2020... thank you for watching and click that subscribe button and you can keep up to date with all our latest contents, including the series sub-series of New Year, New Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
So today, Stephen, can you introduce the topic we will be talking about?
Today, we will be looking at points. So at the end of the day, it's all about them points.
It is about dem points. So the point system, we reckon it could use some improving.
Yeah.
And the first point, I think we're going to look to improve.
I like what you did there. First point.
Exactly. It's a very point-based episode.
Who should the first point go to?
The first point goes to looking at the turbo drivers. Obviously it worked okay in the first half of the season due to Gasly's poor performance and price tag. But when you could pick up Alexander Albon for so cheap and turbo him in the second half of the season, it kind of, bar maybe one race out of the 9 races in the second half of the season, Alex Albon was the best turbo driver throughout. It might have even been 2, but you know, 7 out of 9 makes it...
yeah, I think it was 2 races.
Yeah, it makes it fairly boring on the turbo side of things.
Yeah.
So what we'd like to see in 2020 is all the big 3 teams, drivers, and now they're confirmed, even if there is a change somehow in Red Bull midway through the season in 2020.
Yeah.
Wouldn't put it past them.
They're probably the most likely of the top 3.
Exactly.
But yeah.
No changes. None of their drivers can be turboed.
Yeah.
So you can only turbo midfield drivers. That would make things more interesting and sporadic to get right. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think...
it just, like you say, it just becomes a bit boring where there's only one guy you can turbo.
Yeah.
You could, because we always said, you could gamble on this guy, gamble on that guy, but at the end of the day, it was 90% always Albon.
Yeah, and even if Albon wasn't the top scoring one, he was probably the second or third, and it was 2 or 3 points, so you were still probably best. So if you turboed Albon, you still hadn't massively missed out.
He was the most valuable player, I'd say, in the second half of the season when he switched to Red Bull.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. And, on a selfish point of view, when we come to predicting our Turbo Driver of the Week, it would have been nice to be saying someone, just pick Albon. That's literally how it came in the last kind of 3 or 4 races of the season. We were just like, just go Albon.
That section was Turbo Albon.
We should have actually renamed it Turbo Albon.
And who should we Turbo Albon this week? I think we're going to Turbo Albon.
I think it's a smart move in the Albon to Turbo Albon. But that is our first point of the point changes we would make for the 2020 fantasy season. In number 2, I feel that's reasonable and something quite easy managed. Yeah. Point number 2, I think the constructors' points need to be looked at a little bit more. Yes, you do have the price difference of about 20 million you could save and maybe get another top driver, but realistically,
they just don't compete.
It's between Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes, and yes, Mercedes dominated this year, so it emphasised it even more. But maybe instead of the drivers' totals being added together, could it be awarded on the point system like how you win a race? So you get 25 points for a winner's constructor, 18 points for second, 15 for third, and go from there in the top.
Yeah, you could do. Because then there won't be too much difference between the top 3 and what the next 3 or whatnot.
It was, because it was crazy, because obviously if you'd saved the money on like a Renault or a McLaren by having them as your constructor, but because of the price, say like Mercedes were winning in a weekend, was usually like a gap of like 50 points.
Yeah.
It was very unlikely that the money that you'd saved could get a 50-point swing in your favour.
Yeah, the team gets you the most points out of your whole selection.
Yeah.
So
I feel like finding a way to close that up.
It seems like a quite boring approach just to say they're more expensive rather than try to bring all the teams into. Like George Russell or Lando Norris, they were getting good points, but they were cheap. Well, George Russell was cheap at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, there was... What I'm saying is...
There was a little bit of incentive to pick them.
You could pick any driver and have a successful team, wherever their price tag. Whereas the teams, you buy them cheap and they're not going to be successful.
Yeah. And so there wasn't any real encouragement to pick them, so it kind of felt like you would only pick a Haas if you were a fan of Haas.
Yeah. Or McLaren, yeah. Yeah.
And obviously there is an element to that side of fantasy sometimes. That's how some people like to enjoy it. They'll pick who they want. They're not necessarily bothered about scoring points. But it would be interesting to see if it's closer, because then it could be more tactical inside that constructors. Yes, you'd still get the advantage of a top team winning you most weeks with, say, 25 points. And how would you decide whether a team won in the weekend? Probably the accumulation of
just driver points.
Driver points, yeah, and then that team would be awarded
race positions.
Yeah,
because you'd have to do it for all 20 drivers. So, yeah, where they fit, yeah.
Because I think their fantasy driver scores could be good still, because you could have other teams on like streaks, and so then that means that they might win, so they get the 25 points because they're, say, Charles Leclerc and Vettel were on qualifying streaks, and they may come second and fourth in the race, but with their streaks they beat first and third.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That might work. But yes, that would be point number 2. The third point, and probably final point, these are going to be kind of like short little discussion points over the January winter break. Nice little kind of bite-sized discussions.
We wanted to break it up a bit, not just all of them all at once. And give you guys a chance to kind of
interact and hear your guys' ideas as well. That would have been
exactly.
That's what we're quite interested in hearing, because we're all the ones who play the fantasy game, and it'd just be interesting to see what you guys think. How could you improve the game? Because I think, although enjoyable, there's a lot that it can still improve on to compete with like the Premier League football fantasy is a pretty well-oiled machine now, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yes, the third point I would say is maybe reducing the amount of minus points you take for a double substitution. So cutting it by half to -5 points, and so that it maybe encourages a couple of switches in a team.
Yeah, because it does limit you quite a bit. Like, there's no flexibility. It's like one change or you take -10, which is big.
Yeah.
They add up.
So if you take a -20, you're going to have to... there's a lot of risk involved in making that many changes. Where if it was -10 for 2, then, it kind of... You're not changing half your options, because obviously there are 6 options to choose from, 5 drivers, 1 constructor. But if you could change 2 out of it...
Yeah.
You're still taking the negative hit.
Yeah.
I suppose, you get the 1 free, and you could change half of them. So 3 out of 6 with the -10 hit. But I still think it would be still quite interesting to see how it plays out.
Because the races vary from race to race.
Yeah. And especially you see some teams certainly benefit, like people to bring in the double Ferrari for Spa or Monza, would have maybe gone, or maybe they had
back
Ferrari and wanted to back in like Renault or something like that after they saw that they did well in practice.
Yeah,
and go from there, type of thing. So I think maybe lessening the harshness of the penalty.
Do you think they could do something like football where you get 2, if you save your transfer a week, you get 2 frees the next week?
I think that could work quite well. If they didn't want to cut the point down to -10 to -5, giving a freebie transfer for saving it for a week, that could be quite a good way of kind of doing that. But yes, that's probably the interesting thoughts on points we have.
Yeah, I was thinking, because drivers that have a grid penalty but then fully compete in qualifying, then get a grid penalty, they kind of get punished points wise. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think, say someone qualified 5th but then had a 10 grid penalty or started from the back, they're then going to have a bad Sunday? Because if they don't make out the places, that is. Do you think they should be punished for that? Or do you think their qualifying points should be 20th and go from there?
Well, they get punished in the race for it, don't they? Because say someone like Norris might qualify 7th and then gets pushed back to 13th, and say he gets it into the 10, he's already on. It still might be a very good race for him, but he gets -3 points from his qualifying position. I think it probably should be taken from where they start the race, so they should maybe lose out on the qualifying points but not be punished so harshly on the race points.
Yeah, I think that's more, because it's just because you can see someone going through the field and then you suddenly remember, oh wait, because he's got a grid penalty, he's actually just damage limitation at this point. But
I think
it'd be better to do it from their final qualifying position after grid penalties rather than before grid penalties.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because then that is actually where they qualify.
And then that would also play into a factor if people then knew about the grid penalties rather than the unsurety of where they might qualify. Will they take part in qualifying at all?
Exactly.
They can go, okay, because it's usually announced, those sort of things, unless they have a crash and have to like change a gearbox or something. It's usually announced on the Friday whether they're going to do it, so you would have an idea before qualifying to change your team and go, oh, he's going to have a grid penalty and probably start back here. That means I reckon so-and-so might finish further up the field or qualify higher. I'm going to back them.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was another point.
Another point?
Yes.
A fifth point?
Sorry.
A 5 point?
5 points? Do you think there should be... But I was thinking bonuses for... Like a small bonus for qualifying from Q1, Q2 or Q3. I know they have streaks that reward people getting into Q3 on a regular basis.
So do you think...
like a mini bonus point, like, or you get 1 bonus point for getting into Q2, or you get 2 bonus points for getting into Q3 or something like that.
So obviously at the moment it's 1 point Q1, 2 points Q2, 3 points Q3, isn't it? I believe that's the point.
Actually get
they
points? Do. Well, forget 0.5 then.
No, but here we go. Do you think those points should be of a greater advantage? Do you think qualifying should be rewarded more? So maybe like 1 point for Q1, so it's a real punishment for going out there. 3 points for Q2 and 5 points for Q3.
Yeah.
So like when Haas the other week, they've been doing poorly in races, but getting both cars into Q3. That...
Yeah. Well, because the race has, if you get into the top 10, you're getting then the bonus championship points.
Yeah.
So obviously qualifying is not the main event, and it shouldn't be level with the race in terms of points.
But that's still giving greater reward for the achievement of doing it without having a massive impact on the result.
Exactly, yeah. I think it'll be... Because then there's more interest, I feel, of just getting into the next qualifying session.
Like when there's only one...
that driver.
Yeah, when there's only 1 point in it.
It's like you'd prefer your driver to get 11th. Because then they're bound to have a better race day. Because they start on the better tyres. Well, tyres are their choice.
I mean, I know outside of Monaco and Singapore and the other Azerbaijan, the other street circuits, qualifying itself can seem irrelevant at times. It's exciting to watch, but sometimes it can be like, okay, the Williams and so Lance Stroll's out in Q1. It's a mix of either Renault, Toro Rosso's out in Q2, and then it's a fight between the top 3, realistically, Mercedes, Ferrari. Ferrari have mucked up again. Go from there. Yeah, I just think for the smaller teams, it would be more of an exciting advantage because everyone's going to have at least 1 or 2 of the big drivers in their team. So that's not going to be too big of an advantage.
Exactly.
And going that, and if in all likelihood, if they don't have 2 of them, then most likely the money they're spending will be on a driver likely to get into Q3. Not guaranteed, but likely to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a 5-3-1, and that will be so. It wasn't completely irrelevant. The bonus points.
Just a bit more.
It was an adjusted.
I didn't realise because there's such a small amount of points you get from it.
Exactly.
So
it'd be nicer to have a bigger differential. So Q1 1 point, Q2 3 points, and Q3 5 points.
Yeah.
It's not much, but it's still
Just
enough
a little bit.
that it just gives that little bit of differentiation a bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and that guys is probably our thoughts on points on how it will be a new year, new fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, you know, new year, there are still some old traditions you have to keep going through, and that tradition is a Kimmy moment of the week.
Oh, yeah.
And on points, we would like to introduce a point system regarding Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
Kimi Räikkönen should score double points every week.
Every week. Every session as well. Qualifying and race, all doubled.
In fact, whatever the top driver gets, Kimi Räikkönen should get and also get doubled.
Doubled, yes. This change will make the game about 10 times better.
It will do.
Or I would go as far as saying 20 times better.
I mean, some may say you're sticking the neck out in the line, but I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
20 times better. Kimi double points.
People are going to love it.
Give the people what they want. That's what I say.
We want Kimi. We want times 2.
Kimi times 2. That's your Kimi moment of the week. Boom. 2020 is here with a bang.
Job done. Drop the mic.
Bang. Get out of here.
Kimi times 2.
Kimi times 2. That's all you need to know.
Comment below if you think it should be Kimi times 3.
That is really the only debate that needs to be had here.
Yeah. Arguments could be made for times 4, but we thought we'd be realistic and go Kimi times 2.
That's what we thought. We'd play conservative.
Exactly.
So, guys, if you have enjoyed that, let us know in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up. And if you are new around here, don't forget you can subscribe to the channel. But like we said at the start of the episode, if you are listening to this and you have ideas on F1 Fantasy, how to improve, we have our topic ideas that we will be talking over the next 3 weeks. What topic should we do next week?
Can't put a price on it.
Can't put a price on it. So discussing the pricing system and it being more manageable next week, or at least easier to probably understanding, or maybe a little bit more logic to it.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll give our thoughts on the pricing system next week. But you guys give your thoughts on anything that you would improve in F1 Fantasy. And at the end of each one of this kind of sub-series, we will have a little fan discussion of a point that you've made and what we think of it and whether we think it would improve the game of fantasy.
Yeah.
No pressure, guys.
Remember, Kimi times 2.
Kimi times 2. That's all you really need to
Katie's
take
gonna
away.
say.
Don't
We're going to
worry.
have a K-Mag times 2.
Why have you put that idea there? If it wasn't already blossomed,
You know what's going to
it's
be next?
now in full
It's going to
bloom.
be a Lando times 2.
Oh no! Then a show
That's why
times
Kimi probably should be
2.
times 4.
Next thing you know, every driver on the grid is going to have times 2, and we're going to be back at square one.
Well, there we go.
And that is
That's a wrap.
that's a wrap on that episode today. And guys, for now, UF1 fans, keep racing.